Good evening, afternoon, yeah, still afternoon, evening.
Yeah, 6 o'clock this evening.
Yeah, 6 o'clock this evening? All right, so it's actually evening, okay. Welcome to the regular board meeting for the Clear Creek Community Services District for June 15th. And we're glad you all are here. The first thing on the agenda is a call to order, and that we have done. And the next item on the agenda, item number 2, is the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'd like to ask Johanna to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, let's go over together on that one. We move on to item number 3, open time pursuant to Government Code. That's 54-950. Persons wishing to address the board of directors on matters not listed on the agenda should notify the secretary prior to the start of the meeting. Or if anybody's interested, please come up and come to the podium and yeah, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Scott McVeigh.
Good evening, Scott.
I'm on the list first, so I'll go first. I'd like to direct, if it's okay, a couple of questions to our interim manager. Mr. Palmer Mesa, in your opinion, is the office now fully staffed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate knowing that. Questions then, I know we haven't received any activity reports in a number of months. Is there a software issue or something going on that's preventing that from being out at the regular meetings like this?
The activity reports are being worked on. January, February, March are being worked on right now. They just didn't make it through the meeting. Staff was busy with the financial transaction report for the state auditor and busy with the regular audit.
Okay, thank you for that. Next, I noticed looking through the website that we've got about 5 months of minutes for last year missing, and I don't see minutes for this year yet. Is there some time frame for getting those up on the website?
As fast as I can do it.
I understand. Thank you very much. What was the last item? Ooh. It's okay. Just blue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McVeigh. We're waiting for the minutes too. We're waiting for the activity reports.
Well,
They
it's
didn't
nice
press
to
it.
hear what the process is.
So I'm with you on that. Okay, anyone else wishes to speak, please? Please, would you, Sandy, if you don't mind?
Sandy Winters, just as it pertains to the water district, I think it's for the benefit of the community. We have a Firewise committee out here trying to get organized, and right now we have a committee of 2. We attended a meeting Monday at the Grant School, and it was Firewise USA residents reducing wildfire risks. And we got a lot of very valuable information over there. But first we were talking about doing the fire safe council, but that's pretty involved. And Dr. Richard Cialano was the speaker. He's the president of the Shasta County Fire Council, and gave us a lot of information. And he is available for public speaking and to help communities set up Firewise committees. And there are some benefits. There's grants available, and people that have Firewise committees set up get consideration for the money. And also, there's a list of insurance companies that are giving discounts to people who are in a Firewise community. So it's worth pursuing. I'm going to bring it up again tomorrow night, Beverly, at our HBCC meeting. And I won't go through all this because it's pretty lengthy. But if anybody happens to be out in Central Valley, Shasta Lake City, look for one of these printouts. They're really informational. There's a lot of stuff in here that it's not just for the Firewise committee set up. It's reports on all the different fires that have been in our area and, things that are available, information that I never even thought of, and how to fire harden your home. And this, Shasta County Fire Safe Council has, a lot of people, they're very organized. And these people will come out and help communities try and fireproof their community, their areas, and also, set up possibilities for the grants. And, we do have a resident out here that got involved with one of them out in Palisadro, and he's got all the equipment that we would need. We just need to get organized and get, in the Shasta County Fire Safe Council. And I didn't exactly approach Dr. Richard Steele, but I told him that we would like to set up a meeting out here and have him come and speak. And he's very informational, he brings videos, and, I think it'd be very worthwhile for our community. And I do have a few of the printouts that Bob Ferrara had started when he was trying to do one of these committees. And, he never got it going, but if anybody wants a printout on some of the benefits, you can get one from me before you leave. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank you very much. Sandy,
Yeah.
if I may, that publication that you showed, who put that out? Did the Fire Safe Council put that out?
No, they didn't. It was, Shasta Lake,
Oh, Shasta Lake.
City of Shasta Lake,
Oh, okay.
and, they had, during their Jamboree celebration, they had these all over town. I wish I'd picked up a whole bunch of them and brought them to the meeting for people. This information and preparedness guide, it's full of phone numbers that people need, all kinds of, what to do while you're trapped in your vehicle, while you're on foot, while you're in your home, how to prepare your house, how to prepare the outside of your house. There's things I never even thought of, like those little screens over the vents where the embers can enter inside your attic, and, just on and on. So many,
Does the Shasta County Fire Safe Council have any publications like that?
well, they gave us a couple of little ones, but nothing like this.
Oh, okay. I wonder if CDF has any.
Well, I was in Cal Fire's office about 2 Thursdays ago, talking to Aaron Hathaway. He's the one in charge of the defensible space inspectors that come around and check people's property. And he said he would come out and speak to us, but that was before I knew about Dr. Richard Cialano. I think that's the one we really need to get involved with.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else care to speak? Please. Could you come up, Dennis? Could you come up here?
I'm just working with Sandy.
He's the other member of our committee.
So we hope to make it bigger.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, my name is Pam Beaver. I came up because I wanted the board to know that not only I, but many people here were very disappointed in the vote that you took last meeting. Patricia, it's nothing against you, but I
Can
think
you refer to the vote you're talking, what vote are you talking about?
for a new director,
Oh, okay. New director or new general manager?
director,
Oh, okay.
we need somebody who knows what, and has been involved in our problems out here and is very in touch with what things have been going on. And Patricia is kind of new to the game, and I know that she has some skills that they were seeking, but we need somebody that can come in and be able to help us fix the problems that we have. So I think that as you are tasked with the idea of, or the job of getting another director, that you need to make sure that it's somebody who has been very involved and knows what is going on out here in Happy Valley.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. If not, we will go to the consent calendar, item number 4. The following items are expected to be routine. Any interested party may request an item be removed from the consent agenda for later discussion. And we're talking about the minutes of May 18th, of the regular meeting, and the special meeting June 7th, and the paid bills of 5/13/22, 5/25/22, and the payrolls of 5/27/22. Any comment or question from any member of the board? If not, is there any comment from anyone in the community? If not, the chair would entertain a motion.
I'll motion.
We have a motion to approve,
I'll second.
and we have a second. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Okay. We'll move on to number 5, new business, old business. 5A is a review of applications and appoint a director. We are missing one director, and we have an empty chair right here that we intend to fill this evening. We did get 5, what I think are pretty darn good qualified people to be on this board. Unfortunately, we have to choose one, and that's what we are to do tonight. So if that being the case, let me go over. Bear with me a minute. Okay. We have Beverly Fickus, Scott McVeigh, Dennis Cosine, Pam Beaver, and Terry Lincoln. Those are the 5 that have applied, and what we would like to do is have each one come up and give a brief description of yourself and why you think you should be on the board, and then the board members here can ask questions. So with that, let me ask Beverly if you'd like to come up first. Beverly.
Good evening, I'm Beverly Fickus, and so I know you've got my application there with some of the information, but I am a 23-year community member here, lived here for 23 years. I had a career at the post office for 30 years, 25 years in management and postmaster positions. My last 3 postmaster positions, I supervised 25 plus employees with also a subordinate supervisor. So I worked with 3 union organizations with my positions. I worked with budgets and goals, much different though than the budget that we have before you guys this evening. I was a member of the Anderson Lions Club as a volunteer for 20 years. I also served 20 years on the National League of Postmasters, and I was the president of the California League of Postmasters for the year of 2008. I served also as an advocate for postmasters, so when they got in trouble, I worked with them, either with upper management and the Postal Inspection Service. I helped to organize the Happy Valley Community Committee. Proud to be a member of that, and we've been working with that for the last 2 years, going over things with the district. I've attended all of the LAFCO meetings since December. I've attended several Board of Supervisor meetings. I also attended one of the EAGSA meetings. I attended the Planning Commission meeting, which was the one where they were discussing Tierra Road, whether to pass it or not. And the letter that the board prepared saying we had no water, that was hidden in a 500-page document somewhere in the middle of that. So I did get up and tell them, we have no water. We have no water to give you guys. Every one of us has strengths and weaknesses. So whether, my strength is a weakness, you could call it either way. I am a very black and white person. I'm a rule follower. So I like things to be black and white. So a lot of times there's not a lot of wiggle room. So that could be a strength, that could be a weakness. I like to read, and question everything. And and I look at the procedures, and I look at the processes. And, I have a very strong sense of right and wrong. So I'm willing to dedicate my time and energies to this board and to do a lot of research. It's whatever is of benefit to you guys, of what you're looking for, and that's up to you. You're gonna have a hard decision tonight with the 5 good applicants. I am a registered voter. You were gonna ask that question. So anything from you guys?
Any questions of Beverly?
Well, we actually indirectly asked you to put in an application as a board member. And I didn't know whether or not you were gonna be willing, so you are willing, and I appreciate that.
I didn't see that as my role, and I put that on the application.
I understand.
You know,
I did.
so now I'm willing to step up.
Thank you.
Well, let me ask you, I'll ask everybody, what do you think are the most immediate, things that this, district has to do? And then also, what are the things that you think are most important for the district, for the future of this district?
So there are so many things wrong, Erwin, that's a hard thing to answer. That's one of the things we were gonna talk about tomorrow night, is trying to get a list together, prioritize what we kind of feel, our committee felt, what would be the strongest things that we would like the board to work on. You know, there's the donated leave policy, that just bugged the crap out of me.
The what?
The donated leave policy, you don't have one, and yet yet the district was giving away donated leave without a policy in place. So that's one of the things that was bad. But, you know, a general manager, sure, that's one of the most important things right off the bat that we need to get selected immediately. So that's probably priority number one. There's a lot of ordinances that need to be updated or rescinded, just in reviewing a lot of the ordinances that need to be redone. All of the policies and regulations and manuals all have to be updated. So it's a hefty task.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay,
Thank you for
very
your
much.
consideration.
Is it on? It is now.
I got you guys.
Whatever you said before, wasn't it?
We used to.
Well, hold it, Joe. Okay, Mr. McVeigh?
Oh,
Sure, just let it double check.
This is my 6th time coming up, all right? Have you all read my application?
Yes.
The outline and the 2 pages of text.
That's
It's
fair.
really extensive. Last time I was told I did not provide sufficient information and background about myself, so I went a little over. Understand, the volunteer that I've done, you see the tip of the iceberg. I have done volunteer work for 60+ years in various organizations. We don't have time for me to go into it. You have what's there. It gives you just a little feel of it. Like Beverly, I've been out here 20+ years. I work with Beverly and the Happy Valley Community Committee. We email and call each other on a regular basis. We discuss things. There are policies out there that need to be adjusted. One of them, I think, is 2000-5 on reimbursement for travel. It currently sits at 32 cents a gallon. And it should be adjusted to read whatever the federal standard is. That way, as that changes, the policy automatically changes and flows. So Beverly and I have talked, and we'll be discussing more about different policies and things that we've been reading. Like Beverly, I'm a voracious reader. I've read most of the EAGSA's 2,200 pages. Okay, so I understand it. I'm willing to go out, go to those meetings. I did a presentation open time at the last EAGSA meeting, and they decided to take and put my comments on the agenda for July's meeting, to to bring some equity to the amount that individuals pay. Right now, our district, being the smallest district, is required to pay 16.7% of all costs.
0.3 per year, so.
Yeah,
16.3.
and we only have 2,710 meters. City of Reading has 30,364. There's some inequality there, so I brought it to the attention of the EAGSA board. Okay. What motivates me? Well, I think a little differently than a lot of people. I am motivated to succeed. I was a district runner in high school and college. I excelled at that. Okay. If I go much beyond that, it sounds like I'm bragging. And I don't want to come off that way. But a district runner never gets recognized. In my high school, at the very last sports banquet, they voted for the senior most valuable athlete. That goes to football players, baseball players. No, it went to me. Which blew my mind because I'm looking around the audience looking for who. So the drive, the energy, the motivation, sure. If you've read some of that, some of the work I've done, I go on the Round Table Pizza franchise. I took it over, had to remodel it, bring in equipment, and started at the bottom of the rankings for franchise owners. And within 5 years, I was in the top 2%. And I had the corporation come to me, ask me what I was doing, why I was growing sales and everybody else wasn't. Okay, I am very detail oriented. I can look at a budget, I can look at a P&L, profit and loss statement, and I can identify issues. I brought up issues here over a number of months repeatedly when I feel that something isn't quite right. Yes, the district has issues. We do need a general manager. If Bill was to put an application, I think the board would entertain that as a strong possibility. But that's his decision. What I see in need for the district is not only that, but I see a need for us to address long-term issues. We have aging, outdated infrastructure. I know Bill's working on grants, and that's an excellent thing. But we have approximately 54 miles of distribution piping that is outdated. And that's going to be very expensive to replace. We have tracking tanks at the filtration plant that run, well, the last I heard they were 65 to 80,000. Has it doubled? The big tanks outside?
Oh, the
To
filters?
replace those?
Yeah, I think it's 80 for the small ones and 120 for the big ones.
And just 2 years ago, they were 65 and 80. So we have to put together a master plan to deal with things 3 years, 5 years, 10 years out. Because the current one is poorly outdated. Okay. I am willing to look into any aspect of that. Like Beverly, I've reread the Brown Act, Prop 218, and other legal documents, whatnot. Sometimes you have to read them multiple times to begin to understand them. But it takes that. It takes people on the board. Whether you select me or not, that's your decision. You have 5 excellent candidates. Make sure you pick one who has the energy, has the time, the motivation to do the work. Okay? Any questions?
No, you answered the question, 2 questions.
Yes, I am a British voter, but I say yes last time too.
We talked about that last time. Thank you.
Question, you look like you want to ask something.
I'm just surprised that back when we didn't have a board member, there was only one person who applied, which was myself. It was suggested, perhaps, that there were 2 other people who applied, and I was quite surprised that I was the only person when we came around to January.
I had applied 4 times prior.
We've already
and I
had
decided
that
to take a
discussion.
break.
And sort of the conclusion that I came to is that I wasn't really convinced that you were going to be willing to fill out the paperwork to be registered at the county. So I was a little surprised in that.
I'll answer that for you by saying this. If you do not select me tonight, I will run in November. for one of the two seats available.
Well,
I guarantee that.
this is where we have been attempting to go on the board, is that we could have enough people who are willing to run in a vote.
I think all five of us will be willing to do that.
Congratulations.
I do believe so.
It's about time.
We are looking to step up and do the hard work that needs to be done.
Thank you.
And most of us have the time, okay, to do that. You know I volunteered in the office here, okay? And anytime Bill needs my help, I'll drop what I'm doing and come down. I've told him that. So, I know Beverly and Terry
Okay,
and Dennis, and
okay,
we're all motivated, okay?
good.
You want me to keep talking?
Yeah. Our next candidate is Mr. Dennis Cosine. Dennis, if you could please come up and give us a little information on why you decided to do this and what your qualifications are, or we already got that kind of on the sheets that we got from you.
Yeah, okay.
Go right ahead.
I'm a registered voter. I've lived in the Happy Valley community for a long time. And I, you know, I've been working on some of your problems for a long time, the rates, water rates and whatnot. And so I saw that last time there wasn't a lot of people stepping up to serve. So I think the funds of us felt somebody's got to get up here and get going. So that's why I'm up here. I think there's some problems that got to be solved, straightened out. And it looks as though that, you know, the district heads turn and are starting towards improvement and getting things squared up. But there's still a lot of work to do. And so I ran a small business, a consulting business for a long time. We ran a bunch of employees, and so I know what it takes to what some of the problems can be running a business. And then I was licensed with the state forestry, state license, professional forester. And then I served on several local boards. I was one local board and different boards. I was chapter chairman of the Loggers Association once, several years ago. Kind of interesting. And then I served on the foundation several years, and I served on the board of the California State Board of California Foresters, Licensed Foresters Association, and I served on the board of the California Landowners Association. So that's my experience. I think that the biggest problem, of course, they have the general manager, appointing a general manager, a good one. That is certainly going to be important. And then secondly, financial statements. struggling to get, those records straightened out, and it's been a real struggle. But it looks like though, when we change over, QuickBooks, things should go a lot smoother. I think, budget's important, currently, short term. And so I think that's it.
How about long term?
Oh, long term?
What do you think the district needs to focus on long term?
Again, long term, we need to get grants and do pipeline replacement. To cut down on cost of, just constantly repairing broken pipelines and losing water, when those pipelines break.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else with a question?
Have you ever written a grant?
Yes, I've written, several grants. In fact, I wrote a grant for here, and we planted trees at, several schools, and, planted, that's what I meant, community center. Both schools here, the Anderson, school at the bottom of the hill. And then I also, the grant, they wanted me to make it bigger, so I made the grant bigger and we planted trees and right at the school. Besides that though, I worked on a lot of grants, building, building fire breaks and, reducing fuels on the Bowman Road area. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Pam Beaver.
My name is Pam Beaver. I've been, not in water, not in anything, but I've been a registered nurse for 25 years. I've been in management for over 10, very involved in hiring and making policies and procedures for different companies. Why I ran for this was because we, as the committee for Happy Valley, have realized that we have to do something and we have to step up. I am a registered voter. My priorities would be that, one, we get a manager. Two, we work on policies and procedures. And the thing that bugs me the most is coming to these meetings time after time after time. We always seem to kick the can down the road when things need to be done. We'll deal with it next meeting. I think the time for kicking the can down the road is gone. This water district has begun to look at some problems and hopefully fix them, but if we don't, we're gonna be in big problems.
Can I ask you, you mentioned kicking the can down the road.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that were kicking the can down the road that need to be done in your estimation?
Oh, I'd have to go through some of the old minutes, or when we'll get to old business and we'll say, okay, we'll deal with that next meeting. It's multiple, it's not one thing, it's multiple. A good thing that I think that would bug all of us here is that we should have been interviewing for a manager a long time before we did, and we waited so long that we ended up with one person, and that one person, and I agree with you on this, we couldn't make a decision with just one person. But the reason we got put in that position is because the board did not act on it in a timely fashion. And this board does not act on things in a timely fashion.
introduced on the 22-23 budget recently.
Whose fault is that? That's the director's fault, so I can't catch any ground on that, Jeff, sorry.
We didn't have the money financially. In my opinion, we've done an excellent job over the last 6 months, 9 months, to have a budget, to have reserves, to bring ourselves back from the verge of bankruptcy.
Oh, I realize that, I've been
So
here.
we can't print money to pay for salaries that we haven't yet recovered from either past due bills or bringing in income, having what was the miracle was the rate increase.
The problem is the reason and the way we got in this mess was the directors were sleeping at the ship. So I can't, I'm sorry, and that doesn't include you, but, the reason that we're there was because of the previous situation. So I appreciate what you said.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I'd like to say, I don't know, I don't usually speak up, but, money is a problem. I've looked at the financials, money is a problem. If everybody wants to chip in some more money to, yeah, so nobody wants to do that. But you want everybody to pull something out of a hat that they haven't got.
The problem is that there's, before you were able to get involved in this,
Right.
we all knew that money was a problem, and all we can do is talk. We can't change what's being
Again,
done.
I'm not,
Yes.
I haven't been here, I haven't done anything, but the problem is monumental as far as I'm concerned.
Well, we know that.
Okay. And,
That's why I don't know what it
to
was.
be all upset, all we can do is fix it.
Why do
The best
each
we
one of
can.
us,
And again, the best way to fix it is to figure out how we can get, I mean, it's bad enough that we don't have water, but that we need things to be fixed on top of everything else, just in.
you see, we've all been doing this, especially Beverly, I'll give her kudos, and, the rest of them that are here, that are involved in the committee, they give up 1 day a week. I mean, they don't just come to these meetings, they give up 1 day a week to make sure that we're looking at things. So we know how monumental the problem is.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Mr. Terry Lincoln. Hello, Mr. Lincoln, how are you?
I had 43 years in federal government, Navy, I worked for the Department of Defense, and then the last 30+ years was with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, working with Indian tribes. I worked with them on grants, contracts. I was a contracting officer for the Bureau. I approved their contracts and grants. I helped them with grants from HUD, Indian Health Service. When they needed help with those, I assisted with technical assistance. I supervised I started out as an electrician, and I became a foreman, and I supervised carpenters, electricians, air conditioning, the whole gamut of maintenance type people. And then when I moved to Reading, I ended up supervising a realty staff, a forestry staff, a roads staff, and plus doing my own job. So I've got a lot of experience in water. At one time I held a certificate, which just a very basic one I had to go get, which was an experience. And I don't know whether I'd have wanted to go on like Bill has, but I did have one, so. So I've got an extensive experience, working with the tribes, with tribal councils, and seeing problems similar to what we've got here. Because when I started with the tribes, working with the tribes in California, is when they come back they were told that they weren't tribes anymore, so they were disbanded, and then when they come back, I started working with them on their policies, procedures, and all of that. So I had a mentor that took me under his wing, and I worked with him. And then I got where I was working with the tribes doing that, so. As for this place, I think we need a manager first, and then we need grants. That's the one big thing is, there's never been any big grants that I've seen out here for, water systems. I know Bill wrote a small one and that, but we need some big grants for trying to get our systems going. And they should have been written years ago when the grants were not matching, because I know the tribes got a lot of grants money and they didn't have to match for it back then. So that's it. What do you got for me?
You mentioned getting grants. In particular, grants for what?
Housing, water systems, community centers. We wrote grants for about anything.
The grants that we should get.
Oh, for here?
For here, yeah. What, to do what?
All these pipes that are breaking. And you can come up with the money to pay a grants writer, and then you put it into the job that if he wants to keep working here, he's gotta, write grants and put himself in there. That's the way the tribes used to do it. They paid 1 year for a grant writer, and if he was good, he stayed on with them and kept writing grants. And those are professionals. They know what they're doing. So.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Erling. Sorry.
We worked diligently with the previous administrator to get grant money for the main line. And what happened, the way that it was presented, was for some reason, we had lengths of pipe, and there's got to be someone in the community who also remembers this process, where we tried and tried, but what happened was that there was some excuse where, maybe you can help me out with this, Bill, because I'm just doing this on recall, because I remember reading it, and what happened was we had individual segments, let's say, and they figured out how not to give it to us, even though, do you remember that, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay, would you maybe just for the
You're doing
benefit,
fine so far.
for the benefit of all of us though, it's not that we were negligent.
No, it was just a bureaucratic process used to deny us.
There
We
was
have never been
very,
denied a grant.
there was a very vigorous
The
attempt.
grant for, by the way, just so you know, and Bill, maybe you can tell us a little bit about this. To my knowledge, the grant that we went for putting new pipes in the ground, about $6 million is what the grant, as I recall. And that grant, when we went for it, the granting agency said, well, you need to do better with your budget because it doesn't look good right now. That was before we did the rate increase. Now we look a lot better, we go back to that grant again, I would think, because we never were denied.
Those are through the state, and there's a lot more grants out there than just state grants.
Yeah.
So.
We have a lot.
Our budget is such that we
I
can
know,
do that.
but because this is an issue, if the chair would entertain this, I'd just like to get a little bit more insight on this, because I believe the following, let's say my side of it, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with what you presented earlier, but we did a very vigorous attempt. And I don't remember hearing, of course, I wasn't a board member, so I didn't hear something in regards to our budget. And perhaps that's, I'm sure that's accurate.
It was there. That was part of it. Everyone is correct on that aspect of it.
And so we simply didn't have our books in order well enough for them to accept our
That's
grants.
right.
We didn't qualify for a loan.
That's right.
Thank you.
So that's a rejection of a grant.
We do now.
That was that bank loan.
Anyway, thank you, Mr. Wayne. Okay. It is noted that all the 5 candidates are on the HBCC. That's interesting.
What was that?
Oh, well, that's right, excuse me, you're not anymore, are you, on the HBCC?
No. No.
You were.
What did you say? I didn't hear.
Oh, I said it's interesting that all 5 candidates are on the HBCC,
Oh,
but you're not anymore, that's right. Okay. We're gonna take it back to the board here and make a decision, but before we do have some comments, and Sandy, you have a comment, if you please come up, we appreciate it.
Been sitting too long. I'll get there.
Okay, gives you time to think. That's why you come up to the big podium, right, by the way, so that you can organize your thoughts before you speak them.
Sandy Winters, I think what you're talking about is when they applied for that bank loan, it wasn't a grant, it was a bank loan.
Well,
We got denied because we didn't have the money. in our- And then also, all the meetings that I've come to over the
Grant
years,
and
all those daytime meetings, it wasn't always the board's fault. The community never showed up to the meetings. There was always Tammy Cole, Deb Straight, me. Once in a while, somebody else, like when Captain Hughes wrote that big check for the water bill at the trailer park. You know, people like that had definite business with this district would show up. Then we have a few other people, or we had a couple of invited people. And most of the time, these chairs were empty. We had directors that wouldn't say hardly one word during the whole meeting. They just sit there and look at the agenda and make a motion, yes. But then there was a lot of board members that really tried to do their job, but you can't do it when you're outvoted. And we went for about 3 months with, when Doug Evans retired, with no director. You guys, conducted business with just 4, board members. But I'm almost sure that what you're talking about was that bank loan, we didn't get it. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Sally? Yes, please.
I'm Sally Lund, I help in the office, and I just have to, I kind of sit here a little irritated with you guys. You don't realize what we are doing in that office. I'm working there as a volunteer, like six to 8 hours a day sometimes. And we've implemented delinquent notices, past due fees, and just to implement those into the regular routine that these people have, it's a lot, because they haven't done these things for so long. That was before all of our time, working here. You ask Kristen about delinquent notice, and I've never done them. They hadn't pushed it. They have, so if you think you're gonna come in and disrupt the office, you're gonna have to think again, because every day, there's people coming in, paying their bills. More people pay their bills over the phone than you can imagine. And it's almost as equal as it is that they mail them in, because there's a lot. And that takes, you have to, answer the phone, the phone is going all the time. And Bill, he's 50% at the treatment plant and 50% at the office, and that's a lot. If you realize how far out he has to go to clear out Whiskey Down, every day to go there, and then he gets interrupted as much as anybody. He comes in, everybody goes like this when he comes in. Whoa, and just bombards him with all these questions and, you know, try to get their foot in just to ask one question, you know, so, you know, it's not gonna do any good to come in and think you're gonna change everything or anything like that. I mean, they're doing the best they can, and by implementing just those things, delinquent notices and 24-hour notices and the late fees has added a lot more to Kristen and Jennifer, and Jennifer's still on the learning curve, you know, and she's bringing her up to speed, but she hasn't learned it all. It's not like we've got a fully staffed, completely A to Z understood all the procedures, you know. Kristen was the one that knew it all, you know, for the most part, and Bill, and here comes Jennifer and Christy knows her job, but, you know, it's not the same, you know. I mean, she has to catch up to who's who and what's what, and the whole thing behind her, you know. And so the stigma that this office has is not fair from what preceded all this. That was, you know, a lot, you know, and it seems like they've got this cloud over them from what happened with the previous manager, and it's not fair. Yeah,
Sally, I want to say, I'm sorry you've misconstrued our concerns. Our concerns isn't necessarily with the current office
Oh,
staff.
excuse me,
It's the
hold it,
directors.
please. Sally, thank you very much. If you're done, we'd appreciate it. We want to get on with things. We do have to do the business of the district.
Thank you, Sally.
If somebody has something to say, please come up. But we want to move along.
I just want to say, I'm sorry that you
Well, can you
misconstrued
give me
Caitlin
some-
Patrick,
Okay, thank you.
that you've misconstrued our concerns. Our problem's not with you guys in the office. You guys have been doing an awesome job with what you've been given and the situation that you've been thrown into. You guys have done great. Bill's done great. The girls in there have done great. The crew on the ground has been doing great. And our problem and concern is with the directors over the last how many years and what they've done in the previous general manager. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right. I think we've heard enough comment. What do you think? Let's make a choice. And so I guess the way to do this is probably to open it up to the board members. Does anyone have a nomination out of the 5?
Scott Monday.
Scott McVeigh? I think Scott McVeigh also. What do you think?
It's a tough choice. There isn't anyone who hasn't been a
Yes.
serious.
What, who would you pick?
Patricia. Who do you see?
It is a tough one.
Pardon?
It is a tough one.
Yes, it's a tough one. It's very tough.
I like the family, I like them all. I mean, it's a tough one.
You gotta make a choice.
Choose.
Probably the simplest thing for me to do then is we've got to, you know,
Hang on a second.
Scott,
Scott?
yes.
Yeah.
Scott.
Okay.
Well, it looks like it's unanimous if that's the case.
Never thought you'd see that, did you, Terry?
All I can say is it's about time. Now, do you have the swearing in? Scott, you gotta get sworn in.
It's on my, I think it's on my desk.
I appreciate that.
Congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Sorry.
Oh, it looks like a candle.
Yeah. You guys, sure?
It's all yours, Scott. We'll support
Well, if
you.
I'm gonna be sworn in, I might as well stand up.
Yeah, here we're getting the
Oh, okay.
official swearing in, and, let's see. You wanna do the swearing in?
President, I name solemnly swear in.
Yeah, you gotta do it right. You have to do it right. You have to do it correctly. Thank you. While we're at it, there will be 2 seats up for election this coming November.
Oh, we know.
Okay. Well, maybe somebody here didn't know that.
It's
We'll
on
post it on
the-
Facebook.
But I don't know whether you know it or not, but if you want to run for the office, and let's see, who on the board needs to run? Is it Chuck that needs to run?
No, it's Patricia and
okay.
Johanna.
Okay, and Johanna, and those two positions are open, and if you want to run, you have to file at the county office, registrar of voters, between July 18th and August 12th.
Register our voters, they'll walk you through the paperwork.
If they will do that.
They're very good.
Okay, well, let me stand up and I'll swear you in. How's that?
Fine.
Okay. You raise your right hand and just say aye.
I, Scott Allen McVeigh,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, both foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
that I take this obligation freely without any mental obligation,
Mental reservation
reservations,
or purpose of
or
evasion.
purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties on which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations. Now,
I hope you're ready for me.
okay, now, the reason I was the chairman for this meeting is because we decided last meeting that I would be the interim chairman until we got to this point on the agenda where we will choose a new chair and vice chair. We have 5 people on the board now, and so the interim chair here will entertain a nomination for chair for the next year, and nominations open.
Can I, ask if it's appropriate that we allow the public to have comment before we go through this?
Sure, we can do
Is there
that.
some public comment?
Sure, we can do that.
All right. So if anybody in the public wishes to comment on this process, you're welcome to. If not, we'll just move forward.
Okay, somebody nominate somebody.
Hold it, hang on.
Oh,
Terry was hesitating too.
I think, thinking it over longer, I think, Erwin would be a good chairman, because the rest of the board members are new. And, you certainly got experience, you know. So I think you would be an excellent choice.
okay,
That's
I'll
not.
make a motion.
okay, we have a,
Beverly Fickus, so I agree with that statement as far as with, Erwin being the chairman just because of the experience. But I would like to see one of the new people as, the vice chair, so they can get the experience, and I actually would lean towards Scott. Thank you.
thank you.
I would nominate Erwin Fuss as chair.
I'll second it.
Okay,
We'll vote.
any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Now, a nomination for vice chair.
I nominate Chuck. I second
Okay, we have a nomination for Chuck for vice chair, and, it's been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
it.
Aye. Okay, so there we are. The next item on the agenda was committee assignments. Now that we have 5 people, we can make committee assignments.
I would like to introduce a motion for alternates
For
for the committees.
what alternates?
You're bringing the idea to the board to consider alternates. We're not quite ready to vote for
Right.
Consider alternates for the committee.
Well, we can't vote on that tonight because it's not on the agenda.
Alternates for committee assignments, I don't see why you couldn't vote.
Oh, alternates for committee assignment.
Correct, so I
Oh,
think
okay.
the first order of business for the board is to consider, who is gonna be on all the committees.
Yeah.
The only ones that we have right now are the personnel committee,
We have a personnel committee,
and that's it.
That's it.
and that's it. Yeah.
Correct.
And the personnel committee consists of, Mr. Chuck Jones and me right now. That doesn't necessarily have to continue on. But then there's the steering committee, and we have, in the past, the board chair and vice chair were on that. But that doesn't make sense, because that's me and Chuck again. We need to split this up a little bit. Well, let's take a look at the steering committee. Steering committee is, charged, from memory here, or maybe Bill might have it. Do you have it, handy there, what the duties of the steering committee are?
You know, we've covered it so many times here recently, I
I
just
know.
thought this was gonna be a breeze.
I think I could pull some of this up.
If you have it, that would be good.
Okay, what we've done is we've made a transition. We've made several transitions. So, from last year, we had an executive committee which was, the way that this reads is this was new business, committee assignments, discussion action. Bill Palmesa noted that the committee appointees should be reconsidered now that the board has 5 members. Senator Trike wanted to review the committee structures as outlined in the standing committee recommendations submitted with the agenda. Dave Zalpadano defined the committee's conflicts and responsibilities and general procedures. He proposed addressing each committee individually. Committee appointments will follow. The executive committee. All duties of this committee are duplicated in other committees, and it has never met formally. Zalpadano moved to delete the executive committee. Director Fuss seconded the motion. Vote was unanimous. In other words, the executive committee was removed.
Yes.
The Joint Powers Insurance Authority, California JPI, Representative Region 2 Committee. This is an individual, not a committee. It should be a board-appointed responsibility. Director Zalpadano moved to remove the JPI representative from the committee listing and move it as a general board responsibility.
Yes.
Director Treasury seconded the motion, vote was unanimous. Oh. Can't tell you who went there yet. Legislative committee, this committee belongs under general board responsibility. Director Zalpadano moved to remove the legislative committee from the committee listing and move it as a general board responsibility. Director Fuss seconded the motion. Personnel committee. This committee would benefit from a general description to articulate the district's current responsibilities to staff. Retain a broad definition to accommodate future structures and ensure the current staff has all support possible to meet challenges. Director Zalpadano moved to modify the personnel committee description to read: the board standing personnel committee shall be concerned with the functions, activities, operations, compensation, and welfare of the district. Director Fuss seconded the motion. Vote passed. Ag committee. The board clarified the description to be consistent with other committee guidelines. Director Tremery moved to modify the Ag Committee description to read: board standing Ag Committee shall be concerned with promoting agriculture and assisting agricultural customers with regulatory compliance. Director Fuss seconded the motion. Planning and steering. The Regional Planning Committee was responsible for long-term physical infrastructure planning. There wasn't a committee responsible for formulating policies and plans. Director Zalpadano moved to change the existing steering planning committee description to read, the board standing planning and steering committee shall be concerned with the formulation of plans and policies for arranging, realizing, and or achieving district goals. Chairman seconded the motion. Finance committee. There's two methods to define a committee, general or specific duties. The existing specific duties description created confusion and provided equal weight to all duties, e.g., monitoring investment activities isn't a heavy responsibility of the district. The general description broadly covers everything: budgets, reserves, plans. Salvador moved to change the existing finance committee description to read, the board standing finance committee shall be concerned with the financial management of the district, including the preparation and oversight of an annual budget, oversight of reserve accounts, and major expenditures. Director Fuss seconded the motion. Committee appointments. Chairman White appointed the following committee members: Personnel, Chuck Jones and Erwin Fuss. Agriculture, Johanna Chenry and Chuck Jones. Planning and Steering, Erwin Fuss, Dave Zalvadano. Finance, Dave Zalvadano, and Cedric Clark. So, Mr. Director Fuss, you would actually be the continuing member of Planning and Steering.
Could be, if that's just, go to the board, but we would need another member of that planning and steering committee.
I mean, obviously, we could, regroup, sir.
Beg pardon?
Obviously, we can regroup and move people where it's a best fit.
Okay.
So I believe this would be the February 16th, 2022, regular board of director meeting minutes. I mean, this is draft, that's draft B. This looks like it's got pages. No, that's January 26th.
Well, at the moment, we have no one on the finance committee. We do need someone on the finance committee. I can't make a motion as the chairman, but I would sure recommend that Mr. McVeigh be a member of that finance committee.
I'll say Tricia.
So if anybody wants to make a motion to that effect.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
To stop the bill of finance.
Yep. And then, who else needs to be on the finance committee? Patricia. Yeah, okay. And then personnel committee, it's Chuck and I. And by the way, just as an aside to this, we are entering into a negotiation period with the employee union here. And at one time, the negotiating committee was chosen to be Chuck Jones and Cedric White. And since Cedric is no longer here, at the last meeting, or one of the last meetings, it was decided that the personnel committee, Chuck and I, would then become the negotiating committee. This is the committee that meets with the employee representative and takes information back to the full board. And the full board makes the determination on anything regarding negotiations. So right now, Chuck and I are on the personnel committee, and by default, the negotiating committee.
I would like to make a recommendation for the agricultural committee to be Mr. Scott McVeigh.
Okay. Okay, so, Scott?
We haven't voted on it.
Yeah. And also, John is on the committee now, so.
Actually, both Chuck and John are right now.
Yeah,
I
right
would
now,
like to depart from that.
but he wants to depart from that. And if you wanna take that place, that'd be fine, and then you and John can do that,
I don't have a problem with that.
okay?
I'm interested in the planning steering committee,
Okay,
long term.
yeah, let's see, yeah, long term, exactly. Scott and Patricia's on the finance committee, Erwin, and it was Dave. How about you and I, Scott?
I have no problem with that.
Okay? So the way it looks now,
There is one comment that I would like to point out about the ag committee. What was, stated was the amount of time that, our interim manager spends to put together the regular meeting. And it's not possible with the ag committee to introduce a committee agenda with the amount of time that would take for Mr. Mesa.
I have to interject here, though, that according to the Brown Act, if we formalize a committee, it has to have the agenda and follow the standard procedures for
I
the
understand,
committee.
I'm just pointing out that it cannot be on the same day as a regular meeting.
Oh,
Can be,
it can be.
as long as it's
Yeah,
notified ahead of time to post an agenda.
but as in the past, and I believe you have set these up, you've set up agricultural committee meetings at farms. Haven't you?
There
You've
were.
gone to farms?
Well, those were for information.
Oh, okay.
We had the meetings actually here in
Here.
this room
Yeah.
prior to the board meeting.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Right.
And everybody agrees that that's the way it should be because that's the Brown Act, right? Okay.
It's hard to understand. It takes a lot of reading.
So, as I see it right here, after talking through this, that we have the Finance Committee, which would be made up of Mr. McVeigh and Ms. Dazell, and then the Personnel Committee made up of Chuck Jones and Erwin Fuss, the Planning and Steering Committee made up of Erwin Fuss and Scott McVeigh, and the Agricultural Committee made up of Scott McVeigh and Johanna Fernari.
Now, I'm okay with that, but it puts me on 3 of the committees, whereas Patricia's on 1 only and Chuck is on 1 only. And if they have any complaints about it, I'm happy to. My interests really are the finance and the planning steering. Those are my main.
Yeah.
I'm happy to serve on the ag also. I have the time and energy to do all 3. It's not a problem. But if you think there's a conflict,
Oh, I'm not saying there's conflict. I think we've got some possibilities here.
I think we need to look at, also assignments like LAFCO, who's gonna represent the district at LAFCO meetings. And, what did Mark go
Could
to?
you explain that? I'm not sure I understand.
Don't
what you
we
mean by
have
that.
a member of the board as a representative on LAFCO?
Yes,
As
I
we
am.
do on, so you're the representative
I
on
am a
LAFCO and
representative
the
of the
EAGSA.
I am not the representative of the board, I'm the representative for special districts.
Oh, for
I
special.
was elected to
Okay.
that position.
Fair enough. Now, off the top of my head, I cannot remember, Mark Engel used to go down annually, and he was assigned that.
He wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Right,
And the board assigned him to keep this board informed on the JPAIA.
that's.
And that's the insurance that we get
Right,
through Aqua. And, Aqua being the, Association of Water, whatever,
yeah,
people.
Right.
water agency.
Water agencies. And, so he went down there to, for the first part of the Aqua meeting, which was the first Monday and Tuesday of it, was the, JPIA board now. And they talked about insurance and costs of insurance and cost of insurance to us and to the district.
Correct.
And we do not have anyone that on this board, to my knowledge, at least before you stepped in, that was interested in doing that.
I can do that.
You can do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go.
That's why I bring it up.
Okay, good. Okay. Bill, you getting all this down?
We're gonna go over it one last time.
Okay, we'll get there.
Does
Okay.
the, state still have their once a year
They
meetings?
do, and we talked about that at this meeting. At one time, one of the things that you could do that was of value was you went down to Sacramento, I think it was in March or April. March? And, they had their spring conference down there, and one afternoon you went to the offices of our state senator, state assemblyman, and that's it, state assemblyman, and state senator, and would lobby them on issues that for, relative to water companies. The last time we've been down there, we haven't met with anybody but the staff members.
Yeah.
It's easier to go to the offices here when they're in town and talk to them.
Yep.
You
I
know,
agree.
so, you know, we have our senator right now who's running for governor. You know, I hate to be cynical about all this, but during election years, when you go visit your representatives, their mind is not on you, their mind is on getting reelected or getting elected, unfortunately.
Blink anxious so we get your vote.
See, the best time to go see them is in the off years. Anyway, we can do that here, and we can appoint that ad hoc at times when we have issues that come to this board that we need to have, the state help us with, and then we can say, hey, Scott, would you like to go visit, Megan Dolly, and Tricia, would you like to go? We'll make an appointment and go do that, and talk about an issue that's important to us. But that can be done on an ad hoc basis.
Yes.
That saves the district a lot of money.
What's that?
That saves the district a lot of money.
Yeah, we don't have to go down to Sacramento.
$4,000.
Although we used to go down early in the morning and come back late that afternoon. But still, you know, it's money saved. And it was determined, once we've been down there, that all we were meeting with was staff members. That doesn't get you anywhere. So, getting back to the committees, committee assignments, then we're gonna nail this down. Finance Committee, Scott McVeigh, Patricia Delzell. Personnel Committee, Erwin Fuss, Chuck Jones. Planning and Steering Committee, Scott McVeigh and Erwin Fuss. Agricultural Committee, Scott McVeigh and Johanna Trineri. And the representative to JPIA, Patricia Delzell. Is that important with what everybody thinks ought to be? Okay. I don't think well, let's see, wait a minute. Says here, consider an act, well, this takes an action item, so someone could make a motion to that effect. That we, appoint those people.
I'll move that we accept the committee assignments as stated
Okay.
by Director Fuss.
All right, do we have a second? And we have a second. Any comment? If not, we need to vote on it. And we're gonna vote. Well, we should have done this before, go ahead.
Yes, before we vote.
Well, wait.
So, Beverly Pickens, I just want to clarify that the ad committee is a standing committee and not an ad hoc committee.
That's right, all these are standing committees.
Okay, because it,
I don't believe that it could be maintained past 6 months in its current ad hoc standing. I read something, so in other words, we don't have a choice. I'm not sure if that's where you're leading.
yeah.
I have read that, I agree with that, and my reason for getting out is we've had so much contention with it that I don't wanna try and figure it out.
If it's formally created, if you formally put the ad on as a standing committee, then you have to follow the Brown Act.
That's fine. I don't have a
So
problem.
that's what I just wanted
That's
clarification.
exactly right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on. Number D, or letter D, meeting time change for regular meeting, discussion and
Wait,
action.
we were gonna introduce Bill.
You were gonna discuss, assigning an alternate for the committee.
Right, okay, back up, and discuss alternates for the committee.
So is it appropriate for me to point out that we have a number of people who have applied to be a director? And I believe that Bill has suggested that we might be able to have alternates.
Alternates need to be directors.
Yes.
Yeah, they need to be directed.
If that's where you're going with the.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because I like
So,
the idea.
in other words, maybe this isn't appropriate, but my thoughts is that what LAFCO has are alternates. And I don't know legally,
Well, that's different.
we could have that be a new business item for, the next agenda.
Well, there ought to be a way for the community members to be a part of the committee, but, well, they kind of are.
Yeah, community advisory committee.
Well, we have
We
that.
could do that for each of these standing committees.
It's good.
And have people from the community be advisors to the individual communities, and that might solve some of what you're talking about.
And here's my point. Dennis had requested to be a part of the ag committee. And I believe that I inquired to that end. And what was clearly stated is that unless you were a board member, that you couldn't be part of, let's say, the standing committee.
Only board
So
members.
that's where
As part of the actual committee, you're
I
right.
have had this in the back of my mind for a period of time, and I simply wondered whether or not we could introduce that as,
Advisors to the committee.
okay?
Well, they're open to public.
That.
So are you
So it isn't gonna work.
Are you suggesting that maybe every one of our, committees, standing committees, have, choose a community member as an advisory member?
Yes,
I wonder if that's legal.
that's my question.
Well, the meetings are open to the public,
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
so what's the difference?
Okay.
Yeah, that, it's a.
I think the idea behind having a,
Yeah,
someone in reserve for for the committee was in case somebody was sick or couldn't make it, we didn't have to postpone something that was pressing.
Right.
That was the purpose of having an alternate.
yeah, so what you're suggesting is that the alternates for these committees be board members, other board members.
Just another board member.
They have to be.
You could just make one person could just be an alternate for all the committees.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
all-
good.
What is it not, I
Why
mean,
don't you make me the alternate?
There you go.
Because
How
I'm the
about-
only one that's got one position.
She has one, we'll make Johanna
And
Perry
most of
the
the
alternate.
time, you're not gonna amuse me anyway, so.
I'd be happy to be involved on that personnel committee as an alternate.
Okay.
If not available.
Okay.
And I'd be
I
happy to
would
be
be
an alternate
interested.
for the
What
planning and steering.
are you interested in?
I'm also interested in being on
On which committee?
On which? What was the other that you were interested in?
one like they is interested in.
Oh, well, we can have two alternates, can't we?
Good.
The,
No, just
personnel
one. Oh,
as an alternate.
I haven't got anything to do except ag, okay?
that's
I'd
not,
like to be an alternate to the personnel committee.
agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? How often are these committees gonna meet? Once
It's
a
up to the
month?
committee, and two things, it's up to the committee, and it's up to the business at hand.
So
That
they
needs
might
to
not
be.
meet for 3 months or 6 months or whatever?
No, we're gonna be
They're gonna
leaning
be
more
busy.
towards quarterly or.
Yeah, at least quarter.
Historically, I don't think they've met that often.
At least it wasn't
We got
announced.
stuff to do.
History is what's behind you though.
So who's the finance alternate?
We haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay,
Well, we have the personnel committee, Irwin and Chuck, and Johanna is the alternate.
Finance?
Finance committee is now made up of Mr. McVeigh and Patricia Delzell. Alternate, who is the alternate for that? Who wants to be the alternate for that?
The
For the
finance?
finance.
Yes, you're on it,
I know I'm on it, I
Yeah.
can't be the alternate.
that's right,
I'll be the alternate.
okay?
Yeah.
Chuck. And then the planning and steering committee, Irwin and Mr. McVeigh are on that. Who,
I'm willing on that.
you want to be on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Please. So we,
Are we leaving Johanna out though?
Well,
I
she's
don't
on,
wanna do that too. You know, speak up.
she is on the
Ag only,
ag only?
Right.
okay?
Oh, how did you come up with that?
That's why I bring it up.
Yeah. I thought she was the alternate on, Personnel, yeah,
Oh, so
Yeah,
I'm
she's
not
on
the alternate
personnel.
for the personnel.
yeah, okay.
Yes,
So are we okay with that?
Yeah,
Let me read it out the way I see it, the way I wrote it down, and, people can discuss it, and also Bill can set it in stone. Finance Committee, Mr. McVeigh, Patricia Delzell, the alternate is Chuck Jones.
Yes.
thank you.
Personnel Committee, Irwin and Chuck Jones, the alternate is Johanna.
Yes.
Planning and Steering Committee, Irwin and Mr. McVeigh, and Chuck is the alternate.
Yes.
Okay.
Agricultural Committee, Scott and Johanna, and who is the alternate? We have no alternate.
I'll be the alternate.
You're leaving Patricia.
Wait,
Yeah.
I can be an alternate, I
Okay.
don't know a lot about.
Well, if you start attending, you can learn, and then when there is a spot where someone can.
This is your government at work.
Doing a good job.
Okay,
if I may, what has happened is that we have been stuck because we didn't have 5 members. So if we lose someone or someone's missing in action, then we're stuck, we can't really do anything to move the agenda forward.
Yeah.
So for what you have pointed out, we're dealing with it. Tonight.
and it looks like it's done. Mr. Mesa, did you get that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, can we set this aside now and move on to item number D?
Did we finish the vote? I think we made a motion.
Oh,
We didn't incorporate the
Motion on the
alternate.
Yeah, go ahead, make a motion on the alternate.
All right, I move that we accept the alternates as stated.
Second.
And we have a second. All in favor? Aye. There we are. Okay, D. Meeting time change for the regular meeting, and this is an action item. Bill, you put this on the, agenda, and, if you'll explain the reason why, we'd appreciate it.
It was discussed a couple of times, in the past to start the meetings a little bit earlier, and so, we're asking if we can start regular meetings at 6 o'clock. Actually, it could be all the meetings, unless they're important, they can start sooner, but right now, we're just asking for the regular meetings to start at 6 p.m. instead of 6:30, just to get a little bit of a head start.
I have no problem with that.
I don't.
Okay, well, let's find out what the public think. What do you think about it?
Go for it.
Sure.
Yep.
I'm okay with 6 o'clock. I prefer not earlier, because I don't get off work till 5:15, so for me to get over here, it's,
You prefer what, I'm sorry?
prefer not to have it earlier than 6 o'clock.
Oh, okay, no,
Because
no.
getting in from town,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, so 6
Could
o'clock
we-
would be fine.
Could we introduce all the meetings to 6?
Which meeting?
Unless it's a special meeting where it's important and it's non-controversial, like signing an agreement or something, that would be the only reason I would suggest not saying all the meetings. But if it's a special meeting, then I guess we can just cross that bridge when we get to it.
Or like general manager interviews.
I'd just like to have a straight 6, so there's no confusion.
Good, so I need to say 6.
And we need to update the website to reflect that, especially in one area on the minutes where we still have 9 AM sharp. Under news and notes, minutes, meeting minutes, right at the heading. You know, there's lots of little things like that that need adjusting, and I'm not asking it to be done right away. But we'll
By tomorrow.
come up with a list, you know, and then you guys just kind of plug through it. Because if someone from the public goes in and looks at it, it says 9 AM sharp on the third Wednesday, then, you know.
Okay, the chair would entertain a motion, chair would entertain a motion to start, to change the meeting time to 6 PM for all regular and special meetings.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion, all in favor? Come on.
When did you have your special meeting for the general manager? Was that at 6 o'clock at night? That was at 9.
No, this, we're talking just the board meeting.
He said special.
Special meeting of the
He says,
board.
you guys said you voted on special, or
Yeah.
that was your motion. Just be careful, because if you're making your special at 6 PM, then when you go to interview your general manager, you're saying it's gotta be 6 PM.
Well,
That's a valid
It would
that's
be-
a valid point,
It would be
okay.
nice if it was just the regular meetings for.
Yeah, let's.
May I make a suggestion to you, that you change the motion to, give me a break, change the motion to, change the meeting time for all regular meetings to 6 PM and most special meetings to 6 PM.
Unless otherwise posted.
Yeah, that's otherwise posted.
So, would somebody make that motion?
Are you gonna include their suggestion first, unless otherwise posted, or do you leave it just as you
I
stated?
said most special meetings,
Okay.
yeah, so.
Most.
So, in other words,
Most of the special meeting.
most,
Committees.
most special meetings, because most special meetings should be at 6 a.m.
It's
6
more
p.m.
of a committee meeting, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second?
I'll second
All in favor?
Aye.
There we go, thanks. Gotta be precise in these things. Okay.
Also on the agenda item would be to consider moving the July meeting to the last Wednesday of July 27th.
Correct.
Oh, is that on, is that,
That's our schedule.
okay,
So we
so,
don't have, I don't think, you don't have to vote that necessarily, but
no, you don't, but,
we could just make an announcement since we're
Yeah.
here.
so what Bill is saying is because of vacations and things like that, July being what it is, that we would like to move the general meeting of this board to July 27th, right?
Right, we tried it.
1 week later,
Okay.
And that would be at 6 in the evening.
at 6 in the evening.
I can make that.
And I'll go back in town.
Okay, so we can move on to, E, approve check signers. And the reason why this is on the agenda is because, Director Twite was on the, check signing, roster, whatever you wanna call it, at the bank. And, he's no longer here, so we need to appoint someone else to be a check signer.
Can I recommend the two people on the finance committee, so that they review the documentation, making sure it's accurate, and that there will be at least one other alternate, and either you as chairman or the vice chair will be also signers.
Well, right now, I'm a signer,
And I'm a signer.
and you're a signer. We need one more.
It's probably gonna help me somewhat to see. what
Someone
was
on the
said.
finance committee should be on there. One of us.
Okay? Who's, well, the finance committee is, Scott and Patricia. Who's more available?
I don't care,
Okay,
either one of us.
okay, Patricia.
Okay.
So, any comments about that from the audience? If not, we're gonna make a motion and vote on that. So someone would, move that,
I have a question.
yes, ma'am.
There was an ordinance a couple of years ago.
Can't hear you, Sandy, I hate that. Hey, Sandy come walking out.
I heard that one.
Well, I'm 82 years old, I say what I think.
I can't hear you. Go ahead and ask your question and maybe Scott can relay it.
We're gonna get you a bullhorn.
Yeah. We need a sound system in here.
That's a lot tougher to do.
Yeah, no, we don't need it. Okay, so-
There was a free sign.
Sandy, there was an ordinance a few years ago where the district manager signed the checks before the board meetings. If an invoice came in and they could get 15% off, you could write a check. Now, are you gonna do that with ordinance 2, or are you gonna rescind that and make a new ordinance?
Can I answer?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think as long as whoever signers are available, we can still get that 15% discount, because it's a phone call, come down, sign this, done.
Before the board meeting.
Yeah, and any day of the week.
They used to pay the bills at the board meeting.
Okay. From everything I've seen on check registers over the last few months, there are 2 set times a month for most of the bills to be paid. which is common sense. A specific one that maybe a discount would be involved, then it would be up to the manager to simply call one of the people signing and say, hey, can you come down and sign this? We will be able to get a discount on the service or product or
I
whatever.
was just curious.
If I may, Bill, did I understand Christie to say that there's actually another time slot where she needs checks signed?
There's payroll every other Friday. We're supposed to be doing payables according to policy, the 10th and the 25th. But that doesn't work for all vendors, so sometimes we do an intermediate check run.
Okay.
So,
And that's why we have to have at least 3.
yeah.
So what?
So it doesn't always work to have them all around and around the board meeting.
Okay.
So the third check signer,
Okay, who are the first two checks?
you and I,
You and I, okay.
and then
Pat or
Patricia?
Patricia.
Would that be the third, with a motion from the board?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll
we have a
second
motion, we
it.
have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on now, down to a very important one, budget review and approval. First of all, Bill, if you would like to, tell us a little bit about the budget that you put together here, and then if we have any questions, the board would like to ask some questions, and then we'll open it up to the members of the public, and then we'll bring it back to the board for deliberation and approval or disapproval. Or change. Bill, do you want to say a few words?
Sure.
Questions or ask?
Here's the latest.
This-
Thank you.
There was
I want that back.
There was a last minute revision to the budget, we'll start off with that today about 2 o'clock. And that's on the website. Yes, on the website, and I emailed it to a few people. But backing up, this is pretty much the same budget, most of it that we've, been presenting, to the board and at the finance committee meetings. This budget is, generated out of Excel. And that's how it's been, generated for the last several years that I can see. And it's very difficult, because it's not taking any numbers directly out of the accounting program. And even if it is, we don't necessarily trust the numbers that have been put into the accounting program. So it was kind of done by hand. So there was some mistakes along the way that we've tried to correct. The budget wasn't working correctly to begin with. The formulas some of the formulas weren't adding up. So it took a lot of staff time to scrub the formulas and make them correct. But we did all that just to get the budget in front of the board for this meeting, because we're gonna switch to QuickBooks, and we're gonna do it all over again, but in a QuickBooks format. So moving forward, it'll be a lot easier. There weren't a ton of changes. There was a couple of expenses that were updated, and there was, I think a big thing was there was, some revenue that was overstated because of the formula.
Yeah.
And that was fixed, but then there was an expense that was definitely overstated by a lot of zeros. The unemployment expense was in there at $200,000, and it should have been $20,000.
Okay.
So there was really nothing to catch that. Some members of the public pointed some things out to me along the way. It was a big help. And I gave my copy away, so I'm gonna try to find it here.
It's over here.
Is this it?
No, I have it here. Hold on.
This.
Yeah.
And you're referring to the latest one you sent out this afternoon?
Yes.
With the correction?
Emily, how many
Okay.
pages is that budget?
6.
Does anybody have any questions while Bill is looking that up?
No, I have it here, right?
Okay.
I have noticed one thing, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, no, go ahead, please.
I noticed in the packet, there was mention of about approximately 58,000 in penalties, late fees, that were billed out prior to adjustments. I noticed, and it's probably, if we take a look at it, about a 5-month period, 5, maybe 6 max, where your real penalties, late fees, transitory, but your penalties are gonna hit mainly in the heavy water use months of the year. And it's difficult to plug in a number, but I have no problem with it being zero, because when we do a quarterly or semi-annual review, that is just some cushion for us, for the district. We can, as long as that is a separate line item that we can track, we can then direct it into a reserve account or to a special project.
Right.
It is now, it's being, excessive water use penalties, I think that's what it's called.
Right.
It's a separate, line item.
But are you including late fees in that?
No,
Okay.
not supposed to be.
Because it's listed here in the budget as penalties,
Right.
charges dash late fees.
Right, so only late fees were put on here and not excessive water use.
So when we do activity reports reviewing them, there'll be two separate line items,
Yeah.
one for penalties, one for late fees.
Right.
So we get a better grip on things moving forward,
Right.
where we are.
That's
Okay,
So water overuse penalties were not, originally I was asked to not put those into this budget, to not
I
overstate
understand that.
income in case we forgave
Right.
or something.
I understand that, and I appreciate that, and I like the idea of reviewing that in 90 days, 6 months, to see where we are with those and how we're doing in the budget.
If I may, I want to remind, this is, we got a brand new board here, except for John and I, and Bill. I want to remind you that over a year ago, this board approved a motion that I made that we would do a mid-year budget review every year. So we're gonna pass this budget today, and in January, we're gonna look at it again and make sure we're on track.
Good.
I have a question for you, Bill. On the, I guess it would be the second page, maybe the second page, and on the revenue, other revenue, you've got the state loan fee of $32,520. That amount of money comes out of the $55.
Well, it's a dollar on the bill.
That's the dollar on the bill.
Right.
Oh, okay.
State loan.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's,
Okay.
so that's
Well,
the
that's state
cumulative
loan.
amount since
Gotcha.
I didn't catch you. And that's to build a reserve so we qualify for
Right.
the grant loan.
Yeah, when we get the grant loan, that goes to that.
Right.
Yeah.
'Cause you have to have a
Okay, I
reserve.
know where it comes from. Any other questions at this point? If not, let me open it to the general public. Yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead,
I
Brenda.
was, I keep hearing the penalties. My name is Brenda Matheson Konjak, and I've been here for years. Hi. Back when we were discussing the overage of the water usage, it took 45 minutes to designate or figure out an account. We wanted it under a separate account for the penalties to go in, so that can be used for purchase of water. So what I've directed people, and I want to clarify myself, is if you have a penalty of like $50 to $100, I tell people to write 2 different checks. Because the one check will go into that overage into that separate account. Is that how it's being done?
It's got its own, general ledger account.
Okay.
But are you talking a separate bank account, track counties?
No.
Yeah, no,
No,
okay, yeah.
just a,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And they can do it with one check, we can do the math, and
okay.
it can get spread out.
But I keep hearing it's going in general fund, and I'm bringing that back. It needs to be in its separate account.
Yes, it's separate line item.
We do have
So when you
separate
see general ledger,
Yeah.
account numbers, 01, 4,
Yeah.
05, that's a breakdown of the general fund. I know everyone doesn't like that word general fund, because they think it just goes in there and
Yeah.
disappears.
I mean,
But when
because,
it goes in there, it's gotta go into one of those line items, that's how we're tracking it.
right, but when, oh boy, I got this unexpected bill, I'm just gonna pull it out. We wanna make sure that's not being pulled out. That is essentially used for purchase of water. And that's what that you guys voted on last year. To 45 minutes.
I'd like to be reminded of that, somehow we can find that, where we did that, where we voted on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
we
what-
did
I'd like to know that.
discussion. Am I correct in my reading, and correct me if I'm not, that, last year, there was approximately 287,000 collected?
I don't remember the number. Oh, there was,
In,
someone brought something up in the
penalties?
last meeting, and I had to, I have a explanation on that. I don't think it was quite that much, but yeah, there was, I don't know. I
I
don't
mean,
know the
if we've
exact number.
collected
There was a lot.
50+ thousand
Yeah.
just in 1 month, and it seems to me that it could easily hit that
Yeah,
figure.
you can't take the numbers though from last year
I know.
out of 1 month, because then we gave them all back, and we adjusted
That's
everybody.
correct. Yeah.
We're doing that now.
Erwin, I believe,
Well, yeah.
Cedric, regarding the money that was available to us, was that we were in a position where we needed the money to pay the bills, and the big push was, how are we gonna deal with women for that large payment, let's say, in January? That was the push in the meeting.
Yes, we did.
So, with regards to a clarification for you, I believe I'm gonna have to call it a consensus that we had to pay the bills.
So you took it out of the water
I'm not
purchase.
gonna say that. I wasn't on the board until January 26th.
Well, we can go back in the records and find that out, rather than sit here and hash it over. That's not gonna get us anywhere. So we need to move on with this.
Any other-
Anybody else? Yes, Evelyn.
A couple of things.
Yes.
So on your budget, you do have a boot allowance of $600, and I don't think that you guys have discussed that at all. It may be coming up later, but it's on your budget, so you should discuss that before you try to do any approval.
Okay.
The other thing
What do you
is,
think about that?
Page 4.
what do I personally think about that? I think it has to go through the union, because it's a union item. So, you know, and that may be why Bill's got it on there, because you're gonna negotiate later with the
The
union.
boot allowance, so
Well,
this is.
yeah, but leaving it on there at this particular point,
It's a $600.
Does it?
I just wanted to make sure you guys
Yeah.
knew what it
we're
was.
gonna look at this again in January.
Right.
And it may be, you're right, it may be a point of negotiation with the
With the
union.
union, yeah.
We'll find that out.
So, one of the things on page 1, as far as income, you've got the domestic water base rate at 100% collected, and the water sales at 100% collected. Do we collect 100% of the water?
No.
What's the average? 90%? So even if it was 90%, which I think is high, you just lost $200,000,
Correct.
okay? So, you think this budget is balanced? I don't think so. You know, I think if it's lower than 90%, now we're losing money again. So, just wanted you to be aware of that it needs to be. Yes, Bill?
I brought that up at the very beginning. What should it be? Everyone just looked at me, so I left it at 100%.
Yeah.
It's been that way since the beginning.
You know, it's scary,
I can't make them pay.
yeah.
Getting people to curtail the water usage is difficult. There are still people out there who refuse to live within
No,
even the 2019.
Now,
No,
this
this
is, he's
is-
talking base rate, the $55.
base rate. If we don't collect 100%, then on page 1, your income is overstated.
Basically.
Base rate.
Just base rate.
First
your water
item.
rate.
The
It's
very
over,
first
both of
item.
them are
Page
overstated.
1, first item.
So if you're not collecting
Page
that,
three.
it's overstated.
Is that it right there?
So just,
1.821 million.
I don't,
So
Let's make it
we have to look
90%.
at what a real percentage is.
And the water sales is also overstated. But that's based on 2,900
It's all-
acre feet of
so
water.
it may look like we've got an excess of $300,000. I don't think we do.
Well,
You
we
know?
probably do not.
So the other thing is, and I brought it up to Bill, and I tried to read some more, so I'm gonna address this to you, Erwin, because you're the person that has to know this. With the Board of Supervisors and with LAFCO, you had a public hearing notice for your budget, and you had it on your agenda as a public hearing item. Nowhere on our agenda does it say public hearing.
On which agenda? On this agenda?
Yeah,
We are having a public hearing.
Where's the public hearing notice? Where's the public hearing notice on the agenda? Not there. So.
Likes the rules.
Yeah.
I'm the rules, that's right. So, if, yes, we're an independent special district, but you generally follow special district regulations. And so therefore, I believe you have to have it. Now, if this is a preliminary budget, you have until September, I believe, to do a finalized budget and have your public hearing notification. So you could approve this as a preliminary, but I don't think you can approve it as a final.
Well, that technically won't be the final.
What?
It won't be the final budget, because we're gonna have to platform it all over to QuickBooks.
Well, that's true too.
And in the past, I didn't see on any of our agendas where we've done a public hearing for a budget. Did you have the government code on that?
I did, it was 61110.
That might be right.
Well, I would suggest that, in light of what Beverly is saying, that, we run this past our attorney.
I think he did.
Well, they didn't tell me that.
But I mean, with your last meeting, that's one of the reasons I made sure I went, is you had an actual public hearing notification that went into the paper, and you had it on your agenda as such, so.
Well, we are having a public hearing.
But it
How
wasn't posted that way.
How is it a public hearing?
Well, there's public notice that has to go out for that public hearing.
And we didn't do that.
Have we sent out the public notice?
No.
We haven't?
No.
And that's
What didn't we send out?
Well, it's not on this.
We've never put a notice in the paper for a budget, so.
Oh,
So if I was supposed to
Probably
do that, I
should.
didn't do that.
probably should. Yes, sir.
I'd like to know how you can consider approving a budget when the finance committee hasn't approved it or met on it, and that was read just a few minutes ago. So,
Thank you.
Good point. Good
The
point.
finance committee did meet on the budget.
Actually, they did, yes.
Thank you.
The prior finance committee did meet and discuss the.
And what date was that?
I don't have my notes here.
and how many
April.
revisions ago?
Was that separate by itself?
April.
Yeah, and it was a special, we even had a special meeting.
Yeah, and then because we didn't have it anyway, it was all,
Yeah.
well, Dave dropped out.
Are there any other comments from the general public? Okay, hearing none. We'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the floor.
Public
Okay,
comment.
the public comment.
I would like to ask Bill a question if I can. Bill, Bevan brings up a valid point on the base rate and water sales. What would it take, and is this gonna be too erroneous on the staff to come up with to start building a percentage so that when we make these decisions, we have a better understanding of what the actual finances are? Is there any way to dive in? Would you need help coming in, to figure out what the actual percentage would be so that we
No,
can
yeah.
calculate? Because if we have all 2,710 people pay, that's $149,000 monthly, just from the base rate. But obviously, that's not happening if we're at less than 100%. So it would help us understand the finances and make better decisions if we can come up with eventually a figure that is more accurate.
Sure.
Okay. I'm not trying to create more work for you, but for us to make decisions on the financial future of the district, we need accurate information. Do you agree?
Yeah,
We-
sure, we
We've
can do that.
been consistently.
We can do that.
working on
I'm not quite sure how,
I understand.
what you can do.
It's the,
You can go back over the accounts and
It's
see what,
really
how
important.
many people have paid this year,
Everybody's understanding.
have not paid. You come up with a, fudge factor. Okay, Bill's writing all this down. Okay. We've heard from the public, we've discussed it here, we have given direction to Bill on what to do with the budget. We are required by law to pass a budget, by June 15th, and it is June 15th. And so we have a budget in front of us, which can be corrected. So the chair would entertain a motion to approve this budget for 22, 23.
Preliminary or final?
Preliminary.
This budget.
Preliminary or final?
He's making a legal point.
Make a motion.
Answer the question.
Make a motion.
He's talking to me.
Yeah, I'm talking either side. Make a motion.
All right, I move that we accept this budget as stated as a preliminary budget to comply with state law.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. There you are. All right. Moving on, operations and administration. Bill, staff reports.
I'm still reading on government code, because I don't see where it says you have to do that, but I'm sure it's there.
Which one is 61110?
You got it right, that's
Oh.
impressive, good job.
You gotta read one.
But,
You have to.
Yes.
You can't get everything right.
I'll find it again, Bill.
Okay.
Okay, Bill, what do you think?
In the packet was the Shasta County Board of Supervisors meeting flyer for the Tierra Robles project, 3 p.m. I wasn't gonna be around, so that's why I turned it in there. I won't be attending.
Do you want to, one of us?
Well, I'm going,
Okay.
and I think Joanna said she was going. This board did write a letter to the county, and it was supposedly included in the AIR. It would not be a bad idea for one of us to stand up at that meeting and read that letter. Because they're not gonna get water from us.
I would encourage the public to attend the meeting also.
Yeah.
And if they wish to comment.
There was 132 delinquent accounts. Some of those accounts just had small balances contributing to the total. Some accounts are minimums. Empty properties that are several years behind. That would be an awesome item for a committee meeting.
Yes.
$158,000 in total. That didn't include adjustments on those accounts. There was 161 penalties for May, for a total of $58,000, and that again is before adjustments. Lead and copper notices, for lead and copper sampling is going out, this week or next week. And we're working with, plan to complete a field review of the pipeline replacement project. I'll touch on that in a second. The treatment plant is still operational. That's right. We used 12.7 acre feet of surface water in May. We scheduled some water and guessed at 10, but we used 12.7, but we had a 2 acre foot credit from the Bureau, because we had to dewater the Muletown conduit. And so that, we only ended up using 11 acre feet of our total in common water. 136 acre feet of groundwater for May. And the electrical booster station project, it got extended out to April 30th of 2023. The base rate is gonna increase July 1st, but that'll go on the August bill. Staff is working on closing January, February, March, we touched on that. Financial transaction report, it's been submitted to the auditor, to the state controller. Finishing up with our auditor for the normal regular audit. AT&T will no longer be from the water treatment plant to the 1 million gallon tank, and I'm still working on a solution there. Grant status, since that was brought up. The distribution system improvement project is a $5 million, 100% grant that we've been approved for. And there's been, it's not an engineering report, it's a plan of study is what they call it, fancy name for a report. But that's been submitted to the state, that's what the end plan work is for, so that's moving forward. And with inflation and the price of everything skyrocketing, the state's well aware we're gonna be asking for more money. But that's, right now, that's for $5 million, and 100% grant. The backwash pond repair project, because the ponds leak, and they'll leak even more after the fire. And State Water Resources Control Board says, you're gonna fix that, so we're being forced to fix it, it's not an option. That's gonna be, I think that was a $4 million project, so it's probably gonna end up being like a $6 or $7 million project. We have $2 million of FEMA money to spend on that, and then the SAGR funding, which was post disaster relief, and I think that was 80% grant, 20% loan to make up the difference. But because we're a disadvantaged community, there's a good chance that we'll get 100% grant for that.
Yeah.
But it's just something we got to keep working on.
Okay.
And then, the water treatment plant, we're still working on trying to find some money for that. It's not that the money's not out there, I work a zillion hours. Maybe my wife should come in and tell you how much I work at home, just to stay on top of things. But I do. And then the electrical project for the booster station is just under $500,000, and we could probably ask for more money there if we have to, but that'll be 100% grant. So we have been getting some things, but we could be getting more, and maybe that's something the personnel committee could bring to the board, is maybe hire somebody just to do grants. Maybe they can work off commission.
Well, you
I've heard that.
them, you pay them for the first grant, and then they write their fee for the next grant after. And that would be probably a good approach.
And it's not really necessary.
That has been my suggestion for a couple of years now.
We should find out what it's gonna cost us to do the initial hire stuff.
There are grant writers out there. There are grant writers out there.
Operations.
Okay, we'll see. So that's it from staff reports?
Yep.
Okay. Standing committee reports. This was a time when we normally would find out what was going on in the valley, and Johanna would have a report on agriculture or either road cleanup, something like that. Anything going on there?
On the agriculture, we had, we went to 2 farms and, learned a lot. And, I've been thinking I'd like to have one at my farm, and it would be titled, Mistakes Made, Don't Make the Same Ones.
Learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, learn from my mistakes.
Okay, well, set it up.
Okay.
Okay. I will report on, LAFCO. LAFCO, in July, starts a brand new year, and, we will be doing municipal service reviews for several different districts. The priority is to do the municipal service review for Clear Creek Community Services District. What we are waiting on is the books to get straightened out, so that when we put the MSR together, municipal service review, that it's stated correctly in there where our finances are. So, that's where we are.
Good. Next EAGSA meeting is what, July 13th?
EAGSA meeting is July 13th. Bill, I think you attended a meeting today of the management committee?
Yep, and one of the items, was the topic of equitability, and AT&D wasn't there, but, City of Reading attended, Bella Vista, Shasta County wasn't there. But we were the only ones really wanting to do anything with sort of equitability. And so we have to come up with some sort of, proposition to bring back.
Okay, we can do that. We can do that.
Is that for the July 13th meeting then?
If it's on the,
It's on the agenda for that meeting,
okay,
Yeah.
discussed.
so what was your question?
The proposition you're talking about that we're supposed
No,
to.
I don't have it on there, no,
Okay,
because we don't have a proposal.
Well, can we put together a proposal between now and then? It would take I think that would be something that either the finance committee could do, or the steering planning committee could do.
I did make the proposal in open time at the last meeting, and it could be very similar to what I proposed.
Well, I can, as one of the board members, I can,
You're on the board.
approach the management committee and say, hey, put that on the agenda.
I believe that at the last meeting, they said,
Well, just make sure it's on the
the
agenda.
chair said they wanted it on the agenda, so it
Yeah.
should be listed on the agenda.
Let's hope so.
What, 2 weeks?
Yeah, something like that. We'll find out. And if not, we'll get it put on there. At least discuss it in open session and let the members of the EAGSA, who, as a matter of fact, if you were there, 3 of the members voiced support for it. So
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So, it needs to be discussed in open session. I hear what some of the participants are saying, like the city of Reading, who has a lot of money and a lot of customers, saying, everybody should pay their fair share, equal amounts. I hear that, but this district is rather small and can't afford that same thing that the city of Reading can afford, or the county can afford.
My proposal was for the EAGSA, the board, to collect from these 6 entities the total number of meters, customers within those districts, and then divide that into the expected annual, cost for the next year. Take that number and take it back. So for us, whatever that figure was per meter, multiplied by the 2710, that would be our fair share. City of Reading with their 30,364 meters, each customer would still only pay, and it'd be about 16 cents a customer approximately, is what my calculations come out.
Not much compared to us.
What was your hesitation about the other side of that, where if they come back at us with a fee?
Oh, for the legal fees and whatnot, potentially, but most of the legality, of the legal issues have been addressed already, have they not?
Oh, yeah.
So I mean their accounting costs was the way that I understood your hesitation, I thought.
The accounting costs would be minimal, you're talking 1 staff person for half an hour.
But what
To do
did
the
you say
calculations.
that the city of Reading was doing all of the billing?
That is correct. Okay,
And that's the offset where if we push, then if.
but
they
it's only
push
6
back-
bills, 6 entities. The billing
Okay,
is
all right,
done to each entity.
I'm just remembering what it was that you said, and there could be that there's a kickback because they're paying for all
The
of.
staff time is what we were concerned with.
That was the conversation
Yeah,
that was had.
I have a bad habit of remembering what someone had to say, so I just wanna be sure that the audience understands that there may be an offset. So yes, it's a proposal, but they, as Erwin has pointed out about the city of Reading, he clarified that one time.
Yeah.
but it's worth
They're
exploring.
They're
I'm
not
not
seemingly
trying
interested.
to upset anyone who's listening in from the city of Reading,
But-
but they're proud of their
But in addition to that,
services.
and I've asked Bill to do this, we need to take the MOU that we have and take the Sigma law and run that by our attorney to see what our options are if the EAGSA does not go along with our proposal to do it by meters.
Can I make a comment on that?
Mhm.
Having been at one of the meetings and talking with some of the attendees, there is the possibility of looking for a grant to cover all those costs, so that the district would then not have an expense.
That's wonderful.
Which is something worth looking into.
We need to go, and I know where that grant's coming from, it's coming from the Department of Water Resources.
Right.
And so somebody's gotta go talk to the Department of Water Resources also, to make sure that we can follow that route.
But it's gonna come from the board.
Gotta come from the board.
Scott, what was the number if we were to stay where we're at, where it's divided equally between all the districts, what would be our cost per customer?
That varied because,
Yeah.
you're looking at, within the packet, and I've got the notes at home for the exact place on what page is what, it was figure 8 or whatever. You have the annual cost, and they broke it down in low end, expected, and high end costs. And then you had your 5-year review with those costs. And if we went with the expected and the 5-year review, the cost of the district was gonna be a little over $50,000 a year
Wow.
for our district. And that means.
I thought it was a little less than that, but still, a lot of money. And so we need to work on that. We need to make sure that here's the deal. We need to make sure that we are able to use our wells, because we have to use our wells. And we have to make sure that we are legally able to use our wells and to be able to drill new wells if we have to, and improve the wells that we have without having to go afoul of SIGMA, which is the State Groundwater Management Act, which required that all districts that had wells join an EAGSA, or GSA, Groundwater Sustainability Agency, which we did. It took us 2 years to put that thing together.
Yeah.
All those 6 entities that are in it right now didn't even want to talk to each other in the beginning. They didn't.
To further answer your question, Caitlin, my calculation said if we were to stay at that 16% the individual, customers would be paying an additional $1.62 a month. Whereas if we can work it to be equitable, then it's about 17 cents.
Thank you.
So you're looking at $1.45 a month per customer. And as a severely disadvantaged district, any penny we can save the customers is important.
That, by the way, the fact that we're a disadvantaged community gives us a good stead with the Department of Water Resources for grant money,
Yes.
to be able to, if we had to, do our own groundwater sustainability plan. Because you gotta have a plan.
Yes, but I don't want to go down the expense.
No, we don't want to. Dennis?
Yes, I'd like to, kind of point out that some of our water generally comes from the Bureau. It's not all pumped from the well, but, in Anderson, I think their total water is.
It's all well water.
So we should be paying, what we get from the Bureau or McConnell. So I'm thinking, possibly a better way of doing it would be by the volume pump.
Well, that's another way to do it too, either customer base or volume. But either way, it's apparent that we'd be paying less. Because we use less, and we have less.
Yeah, well, it seems like since some of our water is coming from the Bureau, we should pay even less.
Yeah.
That's what
When we get water from the Bureau again, whenever that is, when the drought's over, if it is.
There'll be another one.
There'll be another one, by the way, you're right. Anybody else care to comment? This is under, questions and public comments now.
Yeah.
You wanna do, go ahead, are you sure?
Yeah, take me down on the jet.
Okay. Yes, but come on, very good. So one thing I would really like the board to look at, and when we have monthly meetings, is that check register.
Is the what?
Is the check register that you guys did on your consent.
Mhm.
Because there were some questions that I had on there, and I would like to hear from the board when you catch things. So in other words, there was a bill we paid to Ricardi.
You need it.
That was the old accounting
If
firm.
you need it.
So why did we pay
Well,
Ricardi?
Bill never paid a
He,
Ricardi.
I know why, cause I contacted
Okay.
Bill, but did you guys do that?
Yeah,
See,
I signed this.
But,
There's a check register right there, I signed it.
okay, but I mean, did you know?
I signed the checks.
Oh, okay, but did all of the board members, not you, just you,
Mm-hmm.
Irwin, but does the board know why we paid our old accountant $1,487?
Okay, well, ask them.
Okay. And then you've got Pace Analytical on there that we paid a gazillion invoices on. Why in the heck did we do that? Do you guys
Bill,
know?
can you
I know.
explain that?
I know why,
I
okay?
think Beverly's point is that she wants to know if we are proactively asking these questions
Yes.
when we get the check registers.
Yes.
If we have the answer
So,
prior to the meeting.
I would
Are you
like,
suggesting that we don't?
Yes.
nobody talked about it.
Are you suggesting that we don't?
Nobody talked about it, so I would just like,
Because I signed that, I signed those checks, so does she, and we asked, what is this?
okay, so
That's
see,
our job.
no, Erwin, it's not that, it's that I would like you to explain it to the public. Hey, folks, you know what, if you notice, we've got a bill from Ricardi, and the reason why is because the new accountant has contacted them. Or we had Pace Analytical that many because we had old invoices that didn't get switched over in time, and so now we're playing catch up. I don't know, you,
Now, okay.
Bill just made a clarification
Yeah.
to the board members. When we sat here and we were gathering prior to the meeting, and he discussed Pace Analytical to us. People who aren't necessarily signing the checks, people who are looking at this. So we got a brief review from, he's not his head, Bill explained it to us.
right, well, see, but we don't know that. And so I'm just looking for some proactivity is all, that's all.
You know, so
That's what
this
you
is
guys
what.
do.
Okay. You got that, you're right, we
That's
do.
what you guys do.
It's not our job. But I just wanted to make sure that you guys are all paying attention.
At some point, you just gotta be willing to trust us.
Oh, can't trust you guys, not you
Let me
guys.
go through this.
Yeah.
Let me just say this. Let me just say this right now, before you get to Sandy. There is a consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, it has the bills paid 5/13/22, 5/25/22, and payroll 5/27/22.
History that.
It says here, the following items are expected to be routine. Any interested party may request an item be removed.
Correct.
That's you.
And I have done that myself, asked that.
Ask it.
Activity reports.
I don't know what questions you wanna ask,
Okay.
but I do know that when I sign these checks, I ask questions of these people to find out why we are paying these bills.
Okay, good, thank you for that explanation, I appreciate that.
All right, any other people? Sandy?
This is under public comments.
Yes.
When Donna and I were going to town about 3:30, there was an arsonist on Canyon being arrested by the sheriff. And it was on the Channel 7 News. So please keep the Firewise Committee in consideration. I think we really need to do this. And it doesn't have to be a big group. The president last night said that a neighborhood can get together and form a Firewise group. So you don't have to have the whole community.
I want to ask you about that. The Shasta County Fire Safety Council, that's countywide, isn't it?
Yeah, they have to have.
I remember years ago, some started here, some started there, Valsegro had one, Old Shasta had one for a while. And the one we got now is countywide, and so any district like us, we could join into that, couldn't we?
Yes, absolutely, we can go into the Firewise Committee underneath the Shasta County State Fire.
Yeah, everybody's having a great conversation
Yeah,
here,
we
but
don't have to form
we're supposed to be directing our attention.
Ask a question, I was trying to.
I really feel this is important for you guys. We saw this guy getting arrested, and then it was on Channel 7 News tonight, that he was an arsonist. We didn't know why they were arresting him when we drove by.
Okay, thanks, Andy.
Yeah.
I drove by there, I saw all the highway patrol with the car.
You had a question?
Handcuffed.
None. Did we move on?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, we need to.
Okay,
We are, we're in consensus.
we're okay?
We're good.
Okay, so, we've come to the end of the question and public comment period. We are now going to close the public part of the hearing. No, we're not going to do that. We're gonna adjourn to closed session for conference with labor negotiators, government code 54957.6. And then we'll be back after that with any reportable action, if there is any. Okay. So we're gonna go on the other road. We can stay here.
Okay.
So,